didn't have to go through all that. I like how he gets all cocky here. So it's like Ganondorf and his, what's it gonna say, pride? Oh, after this. Basically, we couldn't Z-target him. Oh, wait a second, that was on the top of the tower. Which is like all Ganondorf and his arrogance and pride or whatever. He couldn't see that. Then, oh, wait a second, what's happening? How it cuts away from the most complex part of what the transformation would be. You can't really see how his face turns into a pig face. It just cuts away from that. But whatever. There's... Oops. That's a nice image right there. I really have no idea what his weak point is. Oh, I like how if you have the Bigoron sword equipped, it just unequips it so he can use his Master Sword. Oh, really? I actually want to target his head. At this part of the fight, well, he can be stunned enough. It was actually not very intentional. Oh, okay. He can be stunned enough by simple stuff that you don't really need to do anything special. In fact, I don't quite how that reads. Big rock sword, I mean. Anyway, you're supposed to use the hammer for this part, but if you have the Bigoron sword, you need that too. I'm a little surprised that that wasn't enough. Yeah, I'm surprised this part of the fight drags on as long as it does. I guess that was the last one. Let's see what maybe it has to say now. Use the Master Sword, destroy Ganon with the Sacred Sword. Now I have the nice short, little tiny sword. Whoops. So I just decided to... Oh, wait a second. Get a nice attack on him while he's down. So anyway, there's a right way to do this and a wrong way. I'm going to do it the wrong way. I don't care what the consequences are. So the wrong way is to roll under his legs and strike at him. I decided to not do this for the easy portion. Whoa, Link, what are you doing up there? That actually looks quite adventurous. Like, cast it like because he kind of jumped over the swordsman that way, I think. Swords. So cinematically, it's like he needs to jump around and find all these ways to dodge, but it's actually much easier than that. Oops. But I'm concentrating on commentary, so that's not quite right. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could just swing the sword, but I don't want to do that. It feels too weak to me. I guess I'll just... Oh. It's done already. It's just sort of a continuation of the tradition of having like a really weird, silly way of dealing with Ganon. In this, it's rolling under his legs. I don't think there's one in the original game. There might be, but I know in Link... well, actually, maybe that only applies to Aghanim, but you can swipe back the attacks with the bottle. No, fist. Actually, in this game, you can hit his magic attacks with the bottle. I forgot that when you're doing the tennis match in the first phase. Well, against Ganondorf. But, and then, I think there's something with the mines. Like, you can use the butterfly net to confuse him or something. And then also the fishing rod against Ganondorf in the Twilight Princess one. They're like, what the heck are you doing? So that's kind of a tradition that there's some silly thing you can do to make the fight easier, because I don't think it's just a silly Easter egg. I think if you're holding the fishing rod, or the net as it may apply, you can then switch to the sword and get basically a sucker punch on them while they're confused. And this is just kind of an extension of that, although it's a little more exciting, because it's kind of cool to... Well, it's not just silly, it's like you have two different ways of fighting him. You know, you can take him head on, or Link, as a clever fighter, can like roll under his legs. That's like a clever adventure thing to do, rather than to just fight them head on. But you can also just fight them head on. But anyway, putting all that aside, important cutscenes. I'm gonna fight that Mario again. It's the same energy, really. Well, the consequences of my actions. where you are supposed to be, the way you are supposed to be. It's a little distracting because her eyebrows look a little more greenish than the rest of her hair, though. Doesn't it look a little bit green? Like a lighter shade of green? Whereas Ganondorf is a darker shade of green. I don't... If Ganondorf... It seems like sometimes people interpret Ganondorf as being black, but I mean, yes, he's a Gerudo, but that's just it. The other Gerudos are clearly or at least a tannish kind of Middle Eastern color. They could definitely render a black-looking person, but if he were black, they could render him being black. He wouldn't have to be green. He's clearly supposed to be green. It's not like the Spider-Man game where Venom's blue because like they couldn't render it properly or whatever. I don't know why they couldn't render that as black anyway. Well, I suppose someday when I play that game, there'll be more to talk about that then. Because right now we should be talking about this game. Because it's coming to a close. There are definitely a lot of hiccups for basically the first LP of this channel. By that I mean I consider this and Mario 64 to be partner series because I started them both at the same time. So that's something I always wanted to do. You know, when I was thinking about, oh, someday I might make a Let's Play channel, I mean, I want to. At the time, I couldn't really find a reason to justify it, especially since I didn't have a job to buy the equipment and stuff. But eventually I was able to do that, and I always wanted to make Mario 64 in particular, but then also this one. Mario 64 is kind of, well, at the time at least, it was kind of like that was just what you did. You did this and you did this game. I'm not so sure about right now, but it's just kind of a tradition to play those games, and for me, it seems like you should do them first to work out like all the kinks and stuff, but also just because I'm not sure exactly how to describe it. Just it's tradition, kind of, except not one that's very strictly followed. But I'd say it's fitting, especially for me, since those are two of my favorite most games. These two. So it feels a little weird to be talking about that one, because that one ended like years ago, but this one had, you know, some problems. Of course, lots of other things had problems too. That's for like a couple of weeks. I wasn't sure what to do until I just decided, since the Switch was stolen, I couldn't do that, and the headset was stolen, so I couldn't even record anything for a while until I got some kind of a replacement. And I didn't get a good replacement until a little while ago, so that's why I decided to do Final Fantasy after a couple of weeks of pondering it over and getting over being stolen from, you know, right from in your house. I gotta say, it was a little traumatizing, and to say nothing of that it caused a delay in this project. And then getting the job at a truck driving job, that provided, you know, good money, but it was hard to find time to record. I was only able to really successfully record once on the truck, and that was like a Castlevania episode. But getting back to this game, or rather the project, because I consider this and Mario 64 to kind of be partner series, sister series. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, when I do a Mario game, I'm also going to do a Zelda game. So, I suppose at some time I'll do Majora's Mask, and I'm not sure how that's going to work, because sometimes this series, well, for most of the time there's like a corresponding game, like there's a game per system. So like for Super Mario World, there's Zelda: A Link to the Past, or for the original, there's the original Mario 1 and Zelda 1. But then there's Zelda 2 and Mario 2. But then there's Mario 3. So, but that's fine because Mario 3 and 2 were pretty short. Whereas uh, something like Zelda 2 would be less short and Zelda 1, so I guess I would probably play Zelda 1 and then Mario and Mario 2 and then probably Zelda 2 and Mario 3. Well, anyway, what I'm saying is there's often some correspondence, like there's this in Mario 64, but then there's also Majora's Mask. And then there's, what do you call it? I guess Zelda's weird because it has a couple of different remakes, and like Twilight Princess was released on the GameCube, but also the Wii. So if you were to correspond that to a game, would it be, you know, Sunshine, or would it be Galaxy? But I guess you could do Galaxy, and then with Galaxy 2, you do Skyward Sword. So that's a little more about my intentions. I'm not going to do them all at once. I'm not sure what I'll do next. I'll probably, like, whenever date this goes up, I won't record until the next session after that while I figure out what to do. Because I don't know if I want to move right into Three Houses, because I haven't played that game at all. Because, well, you know, it's one thing to not be able to record Ocarina or other N64 games, but at least I could still play them, because the guy wasn't interested in stealing those, thank God. He was really only interested in the Switch, and he also stole the 3DS. But, at least I could play those, but not the Switch or anything that came with that. And then it took years to replace that. I mean, for starters, I was holding out for hope that the system would be found, and then when that didn't happen, COVID happened. So then it was hard to replace the Switch, on top of the fact that I was working the truck driving job. So most people would have more opportunities than I would to replace, like, a Switch at that time, because I was only in town, like, once a month. But I was actually able to replace it during that time, so I was pretty lucky. It was towards the tail end, though. But anyway, that's that, so I don't... And then there's Mario Maker 2. I was doing the story mode for that, but since the data didn't cross over, I don't know how it works, but I did a bunch of levels, and then it turned out I did later levels in the playthrough, and then was going to do the older ones earlier, and I didn't realize that, so I'm not sure if I'm going to continue Mario 2 or not, because that's a little complicated, but anyway, that's Ocarina of Time. Probably, I don't... If I do anything, it'll either be Final Fantasy VI, because that's the kind of next game on the SNES Classic I do. Of course, I'm still continuing whatchamacallit, Ninja Gaiden 3. That's going to be ongoing for a while, I think. So there's that, or maybe Donkey Kong Country 2 on the SNES online on the Switch. Thankfully, they released that, and I think they're going to do 3 too. Or maybe they've already done that. I didn't think that was going to happen, so there's that. So I can finish that whole trilogy. So Donkey Kong, Final Fantasy, maybe another N64 game like Banjo-Kazooie, or move on to, if it's a Switch game, it would be Three Houses. So we'll figure that out later. This is the end of the Zelda Ocarina of Time, The Legend of Zelda. My throat's getting a little hoarse, so that's another excuse if I have for not enunciating. See you next time. Bye. Because my voice really is quite coarse right now. Haven't even been talking all that much compared to last week. So I only recorded a couple episodes this time, but last week was a full 7 if you split them up right. Anyway, bye. For real this time.